Yo, what's going on everyone? Welcome to another video. So this is just on the spot. There's no script to this. I did not plan this. I actually just randomly bought myself another accessory for the iPad, and I think this might be the best accessory that I've bought to date. I have literally had this for maybe an hour, and I can already say that this is going to be the best accessory I've ever purchased. I'm just going to do an initial impressions video, and then after maybe a couple weeks or a month, come back and do a review for this thing. But honestly, this thing is insane. It is the Apple Magic Keyboard. I'm a little late to the game, but this thing is insane. As you can see right here, I have the iPad first generation. This is the 11-inch with the Apple Pencil. Great combo, nothing to it. But for the purposes of the iPad, I haven't really had much to it before I got this thing right here. This is a godsend. You know, from all the videos that I've seen of it from other creators and other people that have used this thing, it's increased productivity, and I can already say right now that this thing is gonna make me use my iPad so much more than I already do. Right now, I had this one. Actually, let me show you guys. So I had this you know, cheap little $11 case from Amazon. This isn't an Apple one by any means, but this is the first one that I had for the iPad. It was great for what it was. You know, it's just a simple fold out case. You know, did this little thing here, plopped it right down, and that was it. You know, you could use it here, you could use it here. Great, right? But it wasn't protective in any way. It was very, very flat. If you guys can see this, right? Obviously, it uses the magnetic smart connectors to stay on there, but you know, there's no protection to this thing. Once you close it up, that's kind of it. You know what I mean? I wanted something more. I really only ever used my iPad for note-taking, consuming content. You know, watching YouTube, watching Netflix, Disney Plus, anything that was just watching something, even YouTube. I did it on this thing. That was it. Then I got this thing, and I noticed that, you know, again, it uses the smart connectors, which is awesome, because that's one of the biggest features that I noticed off the rip was I didn't have to charge this thing. Everything is powered through the iPad, which is great. It's one less thing to charge. I don't have to worry about it. Yes, it does take away some battery from the iPad, but it's not like super crazy. Also, it just flips on right there and everything's connected, everything works. Keyboard and trackpad are obviously the main features of this thing. I mean, what can I say? It adds to that experience of making the iPad more like a laptop, which me, as well as other, you know, people who have iPads and who want that experience and want that portability that the iPad already provides, this case just completes it in a way. You know, obviously there's some things missing that I wish were there. I wish there was a top row or some sort of functionality feature where I can use shortcuts to where I can adjust the brightness, the volume, lock it, go home, so that I don't have to touch the screen at all. Like, that would be awesome, because right now, yes, I can use the multi-gestures on the trackpad to go home and things like that, but there are a couple things, so I do have to swipe down still to adjust the brightness and to adjust the volume or other things like that, where I know if you added another keyboard that supported Mac, you can do that through the hotkey functionality. So I wish that was there for the price point of this thing. This thing is not cheap. This thing comes in at like $300 US for the 11-inch at least. I think for the 12.9, it's like $50 more or something like that, which is not cheap by any means. That is expensive for a case, but I think for me personally, for my use case, this thing is going to pay itself off. This is one of the best investments I think I've made today, and I can say that even if I've only had it for about an hour. You know, just from using it right now, it's seamless, right? It just feels good. I can go through emails really nicely, scroll down using the trackpad and not have to swipe up all the time, and it feels amazing doing it. And then, you know, I have the keyboard, so I can just type, and the keyboard, not to mention, also feels fantastic. Not the stupid butterfly switches that Apple used in the past. This is their scissor type switch, so there is a good amount of tactile feedback. Obviously nothing like a mechanical keyboard would give you, but for what it is, it does feel good. It feels kind of like, you know, a regular Mac keyboard, the Magic Keyboard that they give you. Sort of feels like that, but a little bit more travel. I think it's a 1 millimeter in travel distance, which again isn't bad. I like the feeling. It's a little tight from other keyboards that I've used, but you know, not gonna complain for the portability factor of it. It is fairly nice. The trackpad is not too big, not too small. It does what it's supposed to do, right? It works, gives me the multi-gesture. I can swipe up with 3 fingers and get this multiple window navigation, and then swipe up to get my search, and then swipe up to go home. So it gives me that functionality. And also the tracking speed feels really nice, which is great. The other thing with the keyboard too is that there's backlighting in it as well, which I think it uses like this auto detection to detect the brightness of the room to determine how bright that backlight's gonna be. But that's a great feature to have in case some people like me, if you have this keyboard and you work at night or you work early in the mornings, that backlight does help so that you can see kind of where you're typing. The other thing is that obviously the main feature of this thing is that, if you guys can't see that, it floats, right? Like that magnetic feature, it floats. Some people like it, some people don't. I definitely do like that aesthetic feature of this whole case. It definitely gives this super nice aesthetic vibe to the whole thing and makes, I don't know, makes it more enjoyable for me, at least when I use it, because it's just like, ooh, I'm using something kind of cool right now, right? The only thing is this is like as far as it goes. So if, you know, you're using it on your lap, it may get a little awkward, I could feel like. So if I put it on my lap right now, I might have to tilt it down a little bit, but it's not too bad, right? Like I can still work with this thing on my lap. You know, it's pretty flat, it's pretty rugged, right? Rigid, so it's not gonna move. It's not flimsy by any means. The build quality on this thing is great. You know, this thing doesn't tilt back, but it's still strong when it does. And then when you're done, fold it in. Very satisfying when you close it. It's really nice. The thing does add some heft to it though. So the thing that the controversy that I did see from other creators is that the case itself actually weighs more than the iPad, which is crazy to me. You know, it doesn't add much thickness to it. If you guys can see that, you know, it's still very portable. And yeah, and you get a little nice Apple logo on the back side to let people know that this is an Apple product. if you were ever curious, this does work for Gen 1 and Gen 2 iPads. Obviously, it was made for the Gen 2 iPad with that cutout for the camera, but it still works for Gen 1, which is great. The only thing that's weird about it is you have to open it backwards, right? So it has to be face down, and then it is also a 2-step process, because it's not like the hinge on a MacBook where you can kind of just lift up the top and then it gets done. You kind of have to do this little 2-step thing and then swipe up and then you're in. So that's the one little gripe there. Other than that, the other gripe that I have too is that when you're taking notes, if you have an Apple Pencil, you can't really take notes on this thing. You know, you kind of have to just take it off. That's the one nice thing, is that it's easy to take off when you want to do something like taking notes. So if I'm going into, that's Photoshop, if I want to go into Notability and start taking some notes, I'd have to take it off and do it like this and then put it back on when I want to use the keyboard and do that whole thing. So it's a little bit of a process. I have seen other people go and little ghetto, flip it over, and you can use it like this, which isn't bad. Obviously the keyboard's up and it's not supposed to be used in this orientation, but you can definitely, with how sturdy that stand is, you can definitely just sit here and write stuff. It's at an angle, which is kind of nice. Or flip it down and you have a little bit of a cover, but you can still write on it, which is great. Obviously, like I said, kind of ghetto, but you know, it works. Flip it back up, get it back on. There we go. Okay, so that's the one thing, is that this case isn't necessarily great for if you're taking notes all the time. If you're typing your notes, that's good, but if you have an Apple Pencil, then you might have to take it off and put it down on the side. The other thing too is that on the left-hand side of the case, there is a pass-through for charging, and it's charging only from what I'm hearing. You can't use anything as far as like plugging in SSDs or hard drives. Any other accessory will not work on this port. It is only meant for charging. So if I wanted to, plug this guy in here and I'm charging. So it's gonna be charging the case, which is great, which also does open up this port right here for anything else. So if I wanted to plug in an SSD while I'm charging, I can do that. If I plug in, you know, if I wanted to plug in an SD card reader and say I had some photos or some videos that I just took and I'm not home, I can plug this guy in and I can get some, you know, files importing through that way while I'm charging, so I don't have to worry about battery life. So, you know, that's pretty cool that that's there. It also, you know, when I'm here and I'm working away but have my iPad right in front of me, there's no cable that's just sticking out right here. It's down here, nice and tucked away and concealed, so that's great. But yeah, you know, there's not much more to say about this case other than I think this is going to be one of the greatest investments I've made to date. You know, this thing is going to be pretty good. You know, I'm going to be traveling a lot with this thing, obviously when I can. I'm going to take a couple weeks to play around with it. One thing I am kind of scared of is if you're traveling and moving a lot, now that I mention it, is that, you know, obviously the magnet on the Apple Pencil and on the side of the iPad is great. This thing probably will not move if I say drop it or if it's moving around in my backpack. But I do wish that there was some sort of strap here to secure the pen in place and make it one less thing to worry about when I'm on the move. Yes, it's not something that I'm terribly worried about, but it's just something to think about when I am on the go. Other than that, I'm gonna play around with this thing for a couple weeks and test it out, put it through the ringers a little bit, and come back with a review on it. Like I said before in the video, I think that this is going to increase productivity for purposes, for me specifically, where it's scripting videos, writing out ideas, writing out captions for Instagram, answering emails, all that stuff. I think it's gonna be great and I'm going to use it a lot more than I did before. You know, this thing, like I said in the beginning of the video, was primarily for watching content. Now I think it'll actually aid me in creating content where I might not even reach for my MacBook all the time anymore. You know, when I'm on the go, when I'm moving, say, to the gym or to a friend's house or something, I might just bring only my iPad. That way I can still work on something and not, you know, feel like, oh, I gotta type on the screen and all that. No, I can actually have a keyboard here and have somewhat of a laptop experience with this thing and actually enjoy it. You know, the only times I'd probably reach for my MacBook is, say, when I'm coding or when I need to, you know, do some more intensive work such as video editing, which I can still do on this. I think I might do like a month only with just my iPad and make a video on it. Maybe not a month, because there's gonna be some times where I have to obviously go on my laptop and code. I can't code on the iPad, so that's a downfall. If I could, that would be amazing, but can't do that just yet unless I go on like Google Chrome on here and then go to CodePen and code, but that's not gonna be feasible. So definitely gonna put this thing through the ringer. That's my initial impressions. I am in love with this thing so far. Again, probably one of the best investments. It is a hefty price, but I think if you are in the market for a keyboard case and are a student that is typing all the time, doing essays or other types of work where you have to be typing a lot, if you're a content creator where you're scripting videos, where you're writing things down and collaborating with your team, if you have a team, this is great for that. Or if you're just using your iPad on a day-to-day basis, I don't see why you wouldn't want to pick this thing up, you know? So like I said, gonna take this thing for a spin and come back in a couple weeks with an actual review on it. I'm a little late to the game, but I want to give my thoughts on this thing and show you guys my workflow with the iPad and how this is going to enhance that and make me a lot more productive in that endeavor. So if you guys enjoyed this video, please hit the like button, comment, and subscribe. That would mean a lot to me. If you guys have any questions or you want to know something else about the iPad, say my workflow for coding, my workflow for video creation or content creation for Instagram, hit me up in the comments, hit me up in the DMs if you follow me on Instagram. But other than that, I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.